On the eve of our wedding, my fiancé suddenly lost his memory. He remembered everyone but me. One day, I got my hands on a new drug that could supposedly awaken lost memories. I rushed to find him, my heart soaring with hope. Just as my hand touched the doorknob of his private room, I heard familiar voices from inside. "Hawthorne, how'd you even come up with the Amnesia Act? It's the perfect cover Celeste Warner would never guess. How long are you planning to keep this up before you tell her the truth?" The cheerful laughter froze me in place, the hopeful expression on my face solidifying into a mask of disbelief. Ethan Hawthorne was faking his amnesia. Then what about all those nights I'd cried myself to sleep, tormented by his condition? What was all that pain for? A bitter cold crept up from the soles of my feet, spreading through my body until I felt as if I'd been plunged into an icehouse. I clenched my jaw, listening to Ethan's careless, drawling reply. "Let's give it another month. Then I'll go back to my Celeste and continue being her loving, devoted boyfriend." His words were met with surprised looks from his crew. "A month? Is that enough time for you? Look how many women you've been with already, why not just break up with her? 7 years with one girlfriend without a change in our circle, nobody's that faithful." Seriously, man. Sneaking around with other women, putting on this whole amnesia charade just so Celeste won't get mad, aren't you tired of it? As the teasing mounted, the smile on Ethan's face slowly faded. "I will never break up with Celeste. She's the only one I love. It's just, after so long, things got a little stale. In bed, she's too reserved, and I could never bring myself to push her. Think of this as hitting the pause button, a chance to let loose for a bit. When the month is up, I'll go back to her and I'll be hers alone." "Easy for you to say," one of them countered, "but Celeste has no tolerance for injustice. If she finds out the truth, she won't just swallow it. Aren't you afraid she'll dump you and walk away?" "Yeah, look at the gardener kid. He played his hand wrong and his girlfriend took off for another country. He's still chasing after her like a madman." Despite their earnest warnings, Ethan didn't seem to care in the slightest. He swirled the liquor in his glass and let out a soft chuckle. "She will be mine for the rest of her life. As long as her name is Celeste Warner, I don't care if she leaves the country or marries someone else. I'll drag her back and keep her by my side forever." His confident declaration was met with roars of "Hawthorne, you're the man," as champagne corks popped. Numb, I dragged my heavy feet and stumbled away from the bar. Outside, a torrential downpour had begun. As if I couldn't feel the weather, I walked dejectedly into the rain. Icy drops pelted my body. My trembling hands could no longer hold on, and the small bottle of pills slipped from my grasp, falling to the ground. As I watched the precious pills I'd worked so hard to obtain wash away, a flood of long-suppressed memories came rushing back, awakening completely. I first met Ethan Hawthorne at our high school's New Year's Eve gala. I was the final performance, and my rendition of Liszt's Liebestraum captivated the entire audience. It was love at first sight for Ethan. He cornered me backstage with a massive bouquet of roses, declaring he was going to pursue me. I'd already heard plenty about this campus king, who'd reportedly dated over 20 girls in his first month of school, his romantic escapades legendary. I had no interest in playboys like Ethan. Worse, my own parents' broken home, a result of mutual infidelity, had left me with a deep-seated need for emotional purity. I ignored his advances, keeping him at a distance, but he pursued me relentlessly, as if possessed, refusing to give up no matter how many times I rejected him. He once threw the entire school's main power switch so I could rest during my period, and he stood on the athletic field in front of everyone, brazenly declaring his love for me. He turned down every other girl's confession. He kept this up, day after day, for 3 years, but I never gave in. Then, during the summer after our high school graduation, I was cornered in an alley by a group of thugs. Ethan fought 4 or 5 of them to protect me. He was stabbed multiple times and nearly lost his life. I wept uncontrollably at his hospital bedside, unable to comprehend how someone could be willing to die for another person. In that moment I thought, it has to be him. We were together for 7 years, from the innocence of school to the complexities of the adult world. Ethan's devotion to me never wavered. Everyone said the reformed playboy had finally found true love. I believed it too. Until 3 months before our wedding, when he was in a car accident during a business trip and doctors diagnosed him with amnesia. He remembered everyone but me. The devastating news nearly broke me, but I held on. I tried every possible solution, running from doctor to doctor, staying up all night reading medical journals, all in the desperate hope that he would recover his memory soon. I never imagined that his amnesia was nothing more than an elaborate, cruel deception. All the courage and determination that had sustained me were washed away by the storm. In a daze, I returned home, gathered all my identification documents, and went to the local records office. Facing the questioning eyes of the clerk, I spoke in a hoarse voice. "Hello, I'd like to change my name." After reviewing my documents, the clerk handed me a pen. With a trembling hand, I signed 2 names, the old and the new. Staring at the new name that no one knew, a bitter, ugly smile twisted my lips. From now on, no matter where I went or what I did, Ethan Hawthorne would never find me. Chapter 2. By the time I finished the paperwork, it was already dark. I hailed a cab and pulled out my phone to search for flights. Although I had submitted the application for a name change, it would take a month for it to be processed. So, I booked a one-way ticket to Melbourne for the 1st of next month and then replied to the study abroad agency, accepting their offer. I had been planning to pursue a master's degree ever since I graduated. But the plans had been delayed for 3 years because Ethan said he couldn't bear to be without me and didn't want a long-distance relationship. Now that I had decided to call off the wedding and end this relationship, it was time to let go of the past. It was time to think about myself and start a new life. Back home, I changed out of my wet clothes, washed up, and went to bed. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in the past month. The next morning, I got up, had breakfast, and then began clearing out everything related to Ethan. The gifts he'd given me, the matching clothes we'd bought, the love letters from our school days, it all filled 5 large boxes. Trip after trip, I dragged them out of the villa and threw them all into the trash. As I was busy, a limited edition sports car pulled up to the curb. I turned at the sound and saw Ethan. He got out of the car with a woman wrapped around his arm, making no effort to hide. Even when he saw me, he didn't flinch. I knew the only reason he was so blatant was that he was certain I would excuse anything he did during his amnesia. From the very beginning, Ethan had refused to acknowledge me as his girlfriend and even had my things thrown out of the villa. I thought I would be homeless, but then the owner of the house next door suddenly contacted me, saying he was moving abroad and offering to rent it to me at the lowest possible price. At the time, I thought I was lucky. Now, it was clear it was all just a play he had orchestrated. He was afraid I would actually leave, so he used this method to keep me nearby. Thinking back on the month of deception, I could only find it laughable. I didn't care what new act he was putting on today. I turned, lifted the last box, and emptied it into the trash can. As he walked by, Ethan glanced at the things I was throwing away, and his expression turned cold. "Why are you throwing all this stuff out?" I shot him a look, my voice flat. "Aren't you supposed to have amnesia? How do you remember any of this?" Ethan realized his slip-up and quickly composed himself, feigning indifference. "Just asking. Of course I don't remember. The past is the past. Now I only like Sissy. After all, when I had my car accident in Southwood, she was the only one there to take care of me." Car accident? If the amnesia was a lie, what car accident? A small smile touched my lips as I glanced at the woman in his arms. She wore heavy makeup, had a slender figure, and was dressed in revealing clothes. Her foxy eyes were filled with smug triumph. I'd never seen her before. She was probably the most satisfying bed partner Ethan had found during this period, which was why he was showing her off so grandly. I didn't want to waste any more words on him. I just grunted in acknowledgement and turned to go back into my villa. Watching my retreating back, Ethan's eyelid twitched. He'd brought another woman home. Shouldn't Celeste be crying, throwing a fit, getting jealous? Why was she so calm? A sense of unease crept over Ethan, but he didn't chase after me to explain. He just watched as I disappeared behind the door. At 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I put down the packing tape I was holding and went to open it. It was the woman Ethan had just brought home. She waved a hand, a smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, I'm Sienna Torres. I'll be staying with my boyfriend for a while. Since we're neighbors, would you mind if I got your number?" "No, thank you." I refused without a second thought and turned to leave. Sienna snatched my phone out of my hand and quickly opened my messaging app to add herself as a contact. Seeing my face darken, she giggled and handed the phone back, her tone flippant. Let's be friends, we'll be seeing a lot of each other. By the way, do you have any condoms? We already used up the box we bought earlier today. Mind lending me a few? A wave of paleness washed over my face, and the hand that took back the phone trembled slightly. No, but Sienna wouldn't let it go, the mockery in her eyes undisguised. Right, my mistake. Ethan doesn't want you anymore. Why would you have any? Chapter 3, I knew she was deliberately provoking me. I didn't want to engage, so I pulled the door to shut it. Sienna grabbed the handle, then threw herself to the ground, tears instantly streaming down her face. Sis, I know you don't want to see me, but I just came over to borrow some spices to make dinner for Ethan. If you don't want to lend them, fine, but why did you have to push me? Watching Sienna's sudden performance, my heart skipped a beat. Before I could react, Ethan, who must have come in at some point, rushed up the steps and swept her into his arms. He looked up at me, his eyes cold and his voice laced with suppressed anger. Sissy has done nothing to you. Why are you being so unreasonable? She is my girlfriend now. I'd appreciate it if you'd be a little more polite to her. With that, he didn't even glance at my expression before carrying her away. His every word struck me like a blow, and I unconsciously clenched my fists. I stared at their backs until they disappeared into the twilight, then raised my hand with a blank expression. Bang! The door slammed shut. In the dead of night, the phone on my bedside table began to vibrate. Woken from my sleep, I rubbed my eyes and instinctively answered the call. The next second, the screen switched to a video call, revealing a wide expanse of pale skin covered in love bites. Moans of pleasure filled the air, interspersed with heavy, ragged breaths. As the shaky camera captured the obscene images, I was jolted fully awake. Realizing what the people on the other end of the line were doing, I froze like a statue. A few seconds later, Ethan's deep, passion-filled voice came through the speaker. From now on, you're not allowed to go next door and bother Celeste. You saw right through my little plan, didn't you? So why are you still taking my side? Is it because you just love my body so much you don't want to tell her the truth? You want to enjoy it a little longer, Hearing her coquettish purr, Ethan grunted and slapped her pale bottom. If you already know, why ask? Get on top, you ride. After a rustling sound, the camera focused on Ethan's face. Seeing the look of pure pleasure on his face, my heart turned to ice. I bit down hard on my lower lip, the metallic taste of blood spreading through my mouth. The panting grew more and more urgent. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and ended the call. My once sleepy eyes were now flooded with tears. I tilted my head back, trying to stop them from falling, as countless images flashed through my mind. In the past, when we were intimate, he would always be so attentive to my feelings, terrified of making me uncomfortable. He was always so considerate. I suppose he was never truly satisfied. Now he didn't have to worry anymore. He didn't have to scheme and plot just to steal a moment of pleasure. From now on, I would set him free. For the next few days, I didn't leave the house. It wasn't until the day of my best friend's wedding that I finally composed myself and went out. When I arrived at the hotel, before the ceremony began, I gave her the gift I'd prepared. We chatted for a bit, and my friend, Yvonne, held my hand, her eyes curving into crescents as she smiled. Celeste, I sent Ethan an invitation, and he promised he'd come. Later, you should go talk to him. Maybe he'll remember the day he proposed and get his memory back. I fell silent for a moment before shaking my head. Seeing the smile slowly vanish from her face, a flicker of worry crossed Yvonne's eyes. What's wrong? You don't want to keep trying? Just as I was about to answer, I saw Ethan appear at the entrance with Sienna Tours. Yvonne followed my gaze, and when she saw the two of them with their arms wrapped around each other, her face flushed with anger. She was about to march over in her high heels and give them a piece of her mind. I quickly pulled her back, my voice filled with exhaustion. Let it go, Yvonne. It'll all be over soon. Yvonne didn't understand what I meant. Just as she was about to ask, the maid of honor came over. The ceremony is about to start, Yvonne. After much persuasion, I finally got my friend to the altar. Listening to the wedding march playing in the hall, I took a deep breath and returned to the reception area. The guests were all seated, with only the seat next to Ethan still empty. After a moment's hesitation, I went over and sat down. During the wedding, Sienna clung to Ethan, constantly asking him to get her food. He responded to her every whim, pouring her wine, blowing on her soup to cool it the picture of attentiveness. When she fed him a piece of dessert she had already taken a bite of, he ate it without a second thought. Watching their intimate display, I looked away, focusing on the stage. I had no appetite and didn't touch my chopsticks. Yvonne's mother, sitting beside me, put some food on my plate, telling me to eat more. Not wanting to be rude, I picked up a dumpling. Ethan, seeing this, reached over and snatched it away. "Are you trying to kill yourself? That's seafood. You're allergic." Chapter 4. As the dumpling rolled across the floor, I lifted my head and gave him a long, deep look. Ethan belatedly realized what he'd done and explained with an unnatural expression. "The housekeeper at home never buys seafood. I've told her off about it a few times. That's how I knew." After that, he didn't dare meet my gaze again. He turned away and started peeling a shrimp. Sienna leaned close to his ear and whispered something. I don't know what she said, but Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed, and he put down what he was doing, pulling her up and leading her out of the hall. I didn't care where they went. It wasn't until after the bouquet toss that I got up to go to the restroom. Just as I reached the door, I heard a continuous, rhythmic slapping sound from inside. I stopped in my tracks, holding my breath. After a few minutes of silence, a low male voice came from the farthest stall. "Why are you so trampy? Coming to a wedding dressed like this, Don't you like it?" A soft moan was followed by a light chuckle. "Of course, I like it." I looked up at the sign above, my fingers digging deep into my palms. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, and the restroom fell silent again. I took one last look at the closed stall door, then turned and left, my eyes red. At 3 in the afternoon, the wedding ended. After saying goodbye to Yvonne, I went downstairs. As soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw a familiar sports car parked on the street. I pretended not to see it and was about to hail a taxi when Sienna appeared out of nowhere and grabbed my arm. "Ethan had to leave for a company emergency and left the car for me. We live close by, how about I give you a ride?" I refused without a second thought, but Sienna ignored me, pushing me into the passenger seat, locking the doors, and hitting the gas. She was driving fast, so I had no choice but to fasten my seatbelt. Along the way, under the guise of casual chatter, Sienna flaunted her relationship with Ethan, both overtly and subtly. "You've known all along that Ethan was faking his amnesia, haven't you? Why don't you have the guts to expose him?" My eyes froze for a second, my expression cold. "It's none of your business." "How is it none of my business? I want to stand by Ethan's side openly and become his fiancé, too. He may not feel that way now, but you know how much he likes my body. He'll fall for me eventually, don't you think?" I completely ignored her, turning to look at the scenery outside the window. Seeing that I wasn't taking the bait, Sienna grew frustrated and threw a few more taunts my way. I finally just closed my eyes, pretending she wasn't there. This blatant disregard infuriated Sienna. Seeing a sharp turn ahead, she made a snap decision, yanked the steering wheel, and crashed the car. The violent impact threw me forward uncontrollably. I opened my eyes to a shower of glass shards flying toward my face. I instinctively raised my arms to protect myself. Dark red blood dripped from my arm. My head slammed against the side door, a sharp pain radiating through my skull, and everything went black. I passed out. I don't know how much time passed before I was roused by a cacophony of voices. Both patients need immediate surgery on their hands, but we only have one available surgeon right now. The patient who doesn't receive timely treatment may face permanent disability. "Mr. Hawthorne, who do you want to save?" Hearing this, I forced myself to regain consciousness and squeezed out a few words from my throat. "Ethan, I need to do photography. My hand, there can't be anything wrong with it." The warm, large hand that had been holding my left one suddenly let go. My eyes fluttered open, just in time to catch the fleeting panic on Ethan's face. He placed his hand on Sienna's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "Save Sissy first." Chapter 5. I don't know how much time passed as I fell through the darkness, but I finally regained some awareness. Perhaps it was the anesthesia, but I couldn't open my eyes, only hear the sounds around me. It was a conversation between two people, their voices familiar. "Hawthorne, you've made such a mess. How are you going to clean this up? Celeste values her hand more than her life, and you chose to save Sienna first. Are you trying to kill her? How could I possibly want to kill Celeste? She just happened to wake up." If I had agreed to save her first, my whole amnesia act would have been exposed. There are only about 20 days left. I just want to play around a little longer. I won't let anything happen to Celeste. Nothing happened. Didn't you hear the doctor? Another minute, and Celeste's hand would have been permanently damaged. What if she wakes up and finds out the truth? It'll be over between you two for good. The person holding my hand seemed to tense up at these words, his palm growing sweaty. A few minutes later, he placed a kiss on my forehead, his voice filled with certainty. She won't find out. I've already arranged everything. In 23 days, the doctor will announce that I've recovered my memory. Then everything will go back to the way it was. After a long sigh, someone left the room. The other person remained by my bedside, murmuring softly. Celeste, our wedding is just around the corner. I've already ordered the rings. The day I get my memory back, you'll see them. After we're married, how about I take you to see the Northern Lights? Do you remember the wish you made on our 3rd anniversary when we saw that shooting star? When you said you wanted to be with me forever, I was so happy. I want to grow old with you, too. The effects of the anesthesia were slowly wearing off. I remembered who this person, chattering on and on, was. It was my fiancé, Ethan Hawthorne. He seemed to care about me a great deal, calling the doctor to check on me every half hour. He would gently help me drink water and tuck me in, staying by my side without leaving, until I fully woke up. And then, all the tenderness he had showered upon me receded like the tide. Watching him furtively leave the hospital room, a flicker of irony crossed my eyes. A few minutes later, a nurse came in to check on me. Seeing how she carefully tried to hide the medical chart, I spoke, my voice hoarse. Who was taking care of me in the hospital these past few days? The nurse's eyes darted around nervously as she stammered a reply. I'm not really sure. It was probably a caregiver. I just felt tired. I picked up my phone and glanced at the time, December 8th. I had been unconscious for 3 days. My text messages were still just promotional ads and carrier notifications. I closed my eyes and prayed silently, hoping my name change would be approved soon. For a long time after that, Ethan didn't appear. Sienna, however, sent me a flood of messages every day. Half were taunts and photos of her and Ethan showing off their affection. The other half were videos of them in bed together in various places. I never opened a single one, simply setting her notifications to silent. On December 15th, I completed the discharge procedures. I threw everything else away, taking only my medication as I left the hospital. Just as I reached the entrance, I happened to run into a senior from university who had once pursued me. We exchanged a few pleasantries, and just as I was enjoying the conversation, Ethan appeared out of nowhere and pulled me away. His face was so dark it looked like it could drip ink, his eyes filled with a stormy glare. His voice was laced with jealousy. Who gave you permission to get so close to him? I glanced at him, then forcefully pulled my wrist, now red from his grip, free. My tone was laced with sarcasm. Didn't you lose your memory? You don't even acknowledge me as your girlfriend anymore, do you? I'll talk to whoever I want. It's none of your business. With that, I didn't wait for his reaction. I hailed a cab and left. Rendered speechless, Ethan could only watch as I drove away. Chapter 6, after a period of rest, I slowly recovered. In my spare time, I did a rough calculation of the costs of moving abroad and realized the amount was quite large. Just then, a regular client of mine referred me for a big job. Since I had nothing else to do, I took it. It wasn't until I arrived at the venue that I realized it was a birthday party. When I saw Ethan walk in, holding Sienna's hand, I froze, a bad feeling rising in my chest. But I had already accepted the deposit. I could only suppress my unease and take out my camera. Seeing me, Sienna immediately sashayed over, a bright smile on her face. Thanks for your help. Try to shoot from a low angle, looking up, and turn down the brightness. When I get on stage, zoom in a little closer. Following her long list of demands, I took over 100 photos. But Sienna was still not satisfied and insisted on a reshoot. I patiently retook the photos 3 or 4 more times, the dull ache in my injured wrist returning. Sienna glanced at it, a mocking expression on her face. Why do they look like this? Miss Warner, the great photographer, it seems you're not as amazing as the rumors say. Let's just use the first batch. At least a few of those are decent. The people around us snickered behind their hands. I rubbed my numb knees and pushed myself up, grunting in agreement. Sienna grew even more smug, walking over to Ethan and throwing herself into his arms affectionately. Then she turned and waved me over, her tone imperious. "Come over here and take a few photos of me and my boyfriend." My eyes narrowed for a moment before quickly returning to a cold detachment. I raised my camera, aimed the lens at the two of them, and pressed the shutter button. Sienna struck countless poses, finally standing on her tiptoes to kiss Ethan. Instantly, the entire room erupted in cheers. A perfect match. It's such a treat for the eyes to watch this beautiful couple. He threw such a huge party for her on a whim, and he agrees to whatever the birthday girl wants. He's so doting. Hearing the cheers, Ethan's body tensed for a second. He released his hand from Sienna's waist and looked at me nervously, but I had no reaction. I was looking down, flipping through the photos on my camera. I seemed completely unfazed by what had just happened. At 11 o'clock, the 4-hour-long party finally came to an end. I put my camera back in my bag and took out a tissue to wipe off the cake Sienna had accidentally spilled on my clothes. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the empty hall. I looked up and saw Sienna walking straight towards me with a wide grin. "Thanks for all your hard work tonight. Are you short on cash? I have another set of photos I'd like you to take. I can double the price." "Are you in?" "Double." I hesitated for a moment, but then nodded in agreement. Sienna took me straight upstairs to a hotel room where she first decided on the angles and content of the shoot. Just as I set up the camera in the corner, there was a knock on the door. Sienna didn't rush to open it. Instead, she gave me a meaningful smile. "It's about to start. Remember to capture everything, okay?" With that, she drew the curtains, hiding the corner and leaving only a small gap for the camera lens. I huddled in the cramped space, listening to the approaching footsteps, and bent down to look. Under the warm yellow light, Sienna slowly approached, tugging on a man's tie. Their bodies were pressed tightly together, clothes occasionally falling to the floor. As the sound of sensual breathing filled the air, I watched Ethan and Sienna kissing passionately on the screen, my hand on the tripod tightening into a fist. He had no idea I was in the room. He explored Sienna's body with wild abandon, drawing out soft, broken moans. "What kind of tricks have you prepared tonight?" "All your favorites, of course. I have several outfits, just waiting for my man to rip them off." "So naughty. I'm going to die in your arms one of these days." The lust in the room grew more and more intense. Listening to the continuous sounds, I was growing numb. It felt like something was blocking my chest, the pressure so intense that even breathing became difficult. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Every second, every minute was an agony to endure. Chapter 7, at 3 in the morning, the commotion in the room finally stopped. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. I pulled back the curtain and dragged my numb legs out. Stepping over the scattered pieces of clothing, I placed the memory card on the table and opened the door. After a soft click, a deep voice came from the bathroom. What was that sound? Is someone there? How could anyone be here this late at night? Don't worry about it. Let's go again. The bathroom door, which had been slightly ajar, closed tightly again. I glanced at the reflection in the glass, then turned and closed the door behind me. The streets were empty at this hour, with no cars in sight. I wandered aimlessly, a buzzing in my ears, my mind a complete blank. I don't know how long I walked, but by the time the sky began to lighten, I found myself back at my old high school. The campus was quiet at 7 in the morning. I walked alone along the school path, looking around in a daze. Some long-buried memories slowly began to stir. The track where Ethan had run the 800-meter race with me, the small auditorium he had filled with roses for my birthday, the flagpole where he had confessed his love for me in front of the whole school. Everything was just as it had been, but for me, standing there now, the feeling was completely different. I walked to the academic building and ran into the dean of discipline, who was just arriving for work. Because of Ethan's grand and public pursuit, almost all the teachers recognized me. The dean greeted me with a smile. "Celeste, what brings you back to school? Where's Ethan? I heard a while ago you two were engaged. Are you here to hand out wedding invitations?" I forced a smile and changed the subject. "It's been too long. I was just passing by and thought I'd come see the teachers." We walked and talked, reminiscing about the old days, feeling a wave of nostalgia. Before we parted, the dean seemed to remember something. He took a faded diary from a cabinet in his office and handed it to me. I confiscated this from Ethan during a study hall once. Since you two are about to get married, I should give it back to you. I was stunned for a moment, then took it and bowed to the teacher. On the way back, I opened the diary and saw Ethan's bold, flamboyant handwriting. March 12th. Celeste didn't say yes, but she smiled at me today. I feel like I have a chance. July 1st. Summer break is too long. I waited downstairs from Celeste's place for 4 hours just to catch a glimpse of her. November 23rd. Someone confessed to Celeste today. It made me so mad I beat him up and got a demerit. December 21st. Today is my 17th birthday. The only wish 17-year-old Ethan has is to be with 16-year-old Celeste, forever and ever. On every page, the same name appeared, filled with a young boy's heartfelt confessions. As I read, a sourness filled my nose, and tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Drop by drop, they were a tribute to the past, and a farewell. By the time the car stopped in front of the villa, I had composed myself. I closed the diary, opened the car door, and my eyes met Ethan's as he was just returning. Seeing the bright red love bites on his neck, I remembered what had happened during the night and looked away. Ethan noticed I had been crying. He frowned, wondering how to ask about it without arousing suspicion. Sienna, nestled in his arms, also saw my red eyes and snickered. "Thanks for your hard work last night. I've already sent the money. I'm very satisfied with what you filmed. I bet you are too, right?" Hearing her suggestive tone, Ethan's heart leaped. Satisfied with what? The birthday photos from the first half of the night, of course. What else could it be? The second half. Seeing her about to blurt everything out, Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He quickly covered her mouth with his hand. She just shot him a flirtatious look and gently nibbled on his fingers. I had become immune to their public displays of affection. I turned and walked towards my house. As I passed the trash can, I casually tossed the diary inside. All the youthful years filled with love and sincerity were now buried for good. Chapter 8. Before I left, I sent a message to my landlord, telling them I wouldn't be renewing the lease. The landlord kept asking why I was moving, so I just made up an excuse. They said they could give me a few extra days, letting me stay until the middle of next month. I knew it was Ethan pulling the strings behind the scenes. He wanted me to stay a few more days so he could pretend to regain his memory and take me back home. I didn't expose their little scheme and simply agreed. 3 days before my departure, I received a call from an unknown number. "Is this Miss Warner? Hello, I'm the manager of the Hilton Hotel, where you held your engagement party. Your fiancé previously booked our main hall, saying he wanted to hold the wedding reception here the day after tomorrow. We haven't been able to reach him recently, and there are some details we need to confirm. Would you be available to come by and discuss them?" I was about to refuse, but when I heard the day after tomorrow, my eyelashes fluttered. January 1st, the day Ethan had decided to regain his memory. The day I was planning to leave. I agreed. I took a taxi to the hotel, and as soon as I entered the hall and saw the decorations, I fell silent. From the flowers to the ornaments, everything was an exact replica of the scene when Ethan had proposed to me. Standing there, I momentarily lost track of time. The manager who had accompanied me received a call and had to step away for a moment. I walked up to the second-floor balcony alone, looking down, and couldn't help but recall the moment Ethan knelt on one knee with flowers and a ring, promising to love only me for the rest of his life. Back then, I had been filled with joyful anticipation for our married life. Who would have thought that just 3 months later, it would all vanish like smoke? As I was lost in thought, the door suddenly swung open. A well-dressed Ethan walked in, holding a bouquet of flowers. Sienna, following behind him, gasped at the dreamy sight, a hint of expectation in her eyes. "Ethan, why did you bring me here?" Ethan snapped his fingers, a triumphant smile on his face. "This is where I proposed to Celeste and where we held our engagement party. The day after tomorrow, I'm going to have the guys bring her here. Then I can pretend the scene triggers my memory and I miraculously remember everything. I brought you here today for a rehearsal. You'll play Celeste. Let me know if you see anything that's off." With that, he pushed Sienna to the center of the stage and began to act. A large pillar completely hid me from their view. I watched their earnest performance, my eyes glinting. I had to admit, Ethan had a real talent for acting. If I had been completely unaware of all this, coming here in 3 days, I might have actually been fooled by him. Fortunately, I wasn't that unlucky. Down below, the rehearsal had reached the forgiveness stage. Sienna stood on her tiptoes and kissed Ethan. From that moment on, the romantic atmosphere slowly began to change. The white suit was smudged with lipstick, and it, along with the pink dress, slid to the floor. Ethan grabbed her slender waist, his tone light and casual. Someone could walk in at any moment. Are you that desperate to seduce me? There are only 3 days left. A moment of pleasure is priceless, don't you understand? Besides, isn't it more exciting to do it in the most important place in your life? Seeing her aroused and seductive state, Ethan narrowed his eyes and chuckled. You have so many tricks up your sleeve. How else am I supposed to make you remember me, my love? If you find yourself unsatisfied after you go back to her, you can always contact me, you know. Hearing this, Ethan reached out and pinched her chin, a flicker of clarity in his eyes. His voice was filled with absolute certainty. There won't be a next time. In 3 days, this will all be over. I will belong only to Celeste. Is that so? I lowered my eyes, hiding the mockery within them, and gave him my answer in my heart. Too bad, Ethan. I don't want you anymore. Chapter 9. 2 days before I left, I received a notification that my name change had been processed. I went out and picked up my new ID card and passport with my new name. It was already evening when I got home. The weather was a bit chilly. I blew on my hands as I got out of the car and looked up to see Ethan waiting at my door. He seemed to have been waiting for me. His eyes flickered uncertainly as he spoke, his tone hesitant. Where have you been? I took out my key and opened the door, my voice calm. Do you need something? Ethan put his hands in his pockets, pretending to be nonchalant. No, nothing. It's just that the weather forecast says there's going to be a heavy storm tomorrow. It's probably best if you don't go out. He was clearly afraid he wouldn't be able to find me tomorrow, but he came up with such a clumsy excuse. I wanted to laugh, but I managed to hold it in and just nodded. Got it. Seeing my indifferent expression, Ethan felt a strange sense of panic. He felt that her recent behavior was odd, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what was wrong. On the day of my departure, I woke up very early. My flight was at 2 in the afternoon. I threw out everything I had left. Looking at the empty room, which now contained only 2 suitcases, I let out a long sigh of relief. At 11 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door a crack and saw a few of Ethan's best friends. Celeste, we know you've been under a lot of stress because of Ethan's condition and haven't been feeling up to much. The doctor said a few days ago that he's been taking his medicine on time and his condition is slowly improving. You don't have to worry. That's right, we all hope Hawthorne gets his memory back soon. We're all waiting to attend your wedding today. Also happens to be your 7th anniversary, so we've prepared a little surprise. I listened quietly as they recited their pre-rehearsed lines, then played along. What surprise? You'll see if you come with us. Before I could answer, one of their phones rang. A minute later, they changed their tune. Celeste, something came up. The surprise might have to wait a little while. You go ahead and do what you need to do. We'll come back to get you tonight. With that, they left in the rain. After watching their car disappear into the downpour, I turned and brought my luggage downstairs. 10 minutes later, a taxi pulled up to the door. The driver helped me with my bags and went ahead. I opened my umbrella and walked close to the wall as I left the villa. As I passed the car parked next door, I heard some strange noises coming from inside. Amidst the patter of the rain, a woman's coquettish voice floated out. Didn't you say you were going to get your memory back and return to reality? Darling, it's almost time. How can I bear to leave when you're so enchanting? I've pushed it back to tonight. We still have time. Let's go a few more rounds. I stopped in my tracks. I turned and looked at the sports car, which was rocking more and more violently. My heart tightened and a single tear rolled down my cheek. The driver, who had already loaded my luggage, called out from a distance. Miss Lynn, aren't you getting in? I calmly wiped away my tear. Ethan, this is the last time I will ever cry for you. I walked over to the passenger side, closed my umbrella, and got in the car. The moment the car door closed, the window of the sports car rolled down. I didn't see Ethan's confused eyes, nor did I hear Sienna's dismissive, "You must have heard wrong." I took out my old, expired ID card and snapped it in half. The driver looked at me, surprised. "You don't want your ID anymore." I nodded, my voice light. "It's expired. I don't need it anymore." From now on, everything was a new beginning. I wanted nothing to do with Celeste Warner anymore. Chapter 10, at 5 in the afternoon, the day-long rain finally stopped. A sated Ethan opened the car door and gestured for Sienna, who was still buttoning her clothes, to get out. She pouted, shot him a glare, and leaned in for a kiss. Seeing the time on the car's display, Ethan turned his head to avoid her, his tone lazy. "Stop. Darling, I was just—" Ethan cut her off, his voice carrying a tone of unchallengeable authority. "I told you from the beginning we were just playing a 2-month game. Time's up. It's your cue to exit." Seeing his cold demeanor, Sienna reluctantly got out of the car. Ethan rolled down the window and stepped on the gas. The lingering scent of passion in the car was swept away by the wind. He looked at the shrinking distance on the navigation system, and a faint smile appeared on his face. When the car stopped in the Hilton Hotel's parking garage, he didn't go to the main hall. Instead, he went straight upstairs. After the afternoon's roughhousing, his clothes were wrinkled. He needed to freshen up. Before heading into the bathroom, he called his crew and gave them some instructions. On the other end, they all snickered. "Hawthorne, don't you worry. Celeste agreed to come this morning. We're on our way to pick her up now. Yeah, you should focus on how you're going to act later. This is gonna be a tough performance. I've been acting for 2 months without a single slip-up. What are you guys afraid of? Celeste is head over heels for me. She won't suspect a thing." Ethan couldn't be bothered with their banter. He laughed, cursed them out good-naturedly, and tossed his phone onto the sofa. Half an hour later, he emerged, toweling his hair, to the sound of his phone ringing incessantly. He unlocked the screen and saw over 20 missed calls. His heart suddenly lurched. Forcing down a wave of panic, he answered the call. "What's with all the calls? Did something happen?" "Hawthorne, we've been knocking on the door of the villa for over 10 minutes, but Celeste hasn't come out. She's not answering her messages and her phone is off. What should we do? Can't be reached?" Ethan's brow furrowed, his good mood completely ruined. "She's probably asleep. Go to my place and get the spare key from the housekeeper. Go in and check, but be smart about it. Don't scare her." The guys agreed. Ethan rubbed his temples, changing into clean clothes while mentally rehearsing the evening's plan. After tying his tie, he grabbed his things and headed downstairs. The hotel manager saw him and hurried over with a fawning smile. "Mr. Hawthorne, please take a look at the setup. Is there anything you're not satisfied with? We can adjust it immediately." Ethan gave it a quick glance and nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad. You've perfectly replicated the proposal scene. Your memory is pretty good." Having earned his approval, the manager's smile grew even more obsequious. "As long as you're satisfied, Mr. Hawthorne. Actually, we have your fiancé to thank for the perfect replication. There were a few decorations I couldn't remember the placement of a few days ago, so I had to ask her to come over and give the final approval." "Fiancé?" Hearing those words, the expression on Ethan's face froze. He stared at the man, his voice filled with simmering rage. "Who gave you permission to contact her? This was supposed to be a surprise for her, don't you know that?" Seeing him angry, the manager was so frightened he could barely speak. "I couldn't reach you, so I asked her to come and help in an emergency. You never said it was a secret, and I thought since you were already engaged, it would be months of planning, all for nothing." Ethan's face flushed with anger. He clenched his fists, about to explode, when a call from one of his friends came through. "H. Hawthorne, it's bad Celeste is gone." Connecting this with what the manager had just said, Ethan felt his head spin. "Then go find her." Hearing his roar, the guys on the phone sounded like they were about to cry. "It's not that we're not looking. The villa has been completely emptied out. We checked the security footage. She threw everything out this morning and left with her suitcases at noon. We have no idea where she went." Chapter 11. Every word exploded in Ethan's ears like a clap of thunder. He froze on the spot. Noon, a taxi, that faint, muffled call of Miss Lynn, all the details he had ignored came flooding back. The oblivious manager was still babbling, trying to explain. "Actually, even if I hadn't called Miss Warner, it seems she already knew. She asked me a lot of questions that day, and before she left, she gave me a box and asked me to give it to you tonight." With that, the manager handed him the box. Looking at the ring box presented to him, Ethan felt like he couldn't breathe. With a trembling hand, he opened it and immediately saw the brilliant engagement ring. Next to it lay a single pink button. He stared at the button, his mind flashing back to 3 days ago when he was leaving the hotel, and Sienna's complaint echoed in his ears. "Next time, go a little easier on me when we're out." You ripped the button right off my dress. I was almost exposed. He remembered the pink dress he had personally torn open and then helped her put back on. A cold dread washed over Ethan, and the blood in his veins seemed to flow backward. He grabbed the manager by the collar, his eyes bloodshot and wide with fury. When did this happen? 3 days ago. Miss Warner came at 2 in the afternoon and left at 5. Hearing this, Ethan was on the verge of a complete breakdown. He snatched the ring and ran like a madman to the parking garage. Running more than 10 red lights, he sped home in under 10 minutes. The villa next door was brightly lit. He burst in without a second thought. His crew had practically turned the house upside down, but there was still no trace of Celeste. When they saw him, they quickly surrounded him. "Hawthorne, we couldn't find a single hair. We really have no idea where Celeste went. I had someone check, too. Celeste Warner's name isn't on any of the passenger lists for people leaving Northwood City in the last month." The relentless stream of bad news sent Ethan's heart plummeting into an abyss. Frantically, he picked up his phone to call Celeste, only to be met with the cold, automated message that her phone was off. All his sent messages were rejected, a sea of red exclamation marks that made his vision swim. His friends had never seen him in such a state and tried to comfort him. "Hawthorne, pull yourself together. She can't have gone far. If we look now, we can still find her." That's right, we can track her phone. We'll definitely find her." Hearing these suggestions, Ethan managed to regain a sliver of composure. He quickly sent a message to his assistant, telling her to investigate. After an agonizing hour that felt like an eternity, his assistant replied, "Mr. Hawthorne, we found Miss Warner's phone in a trash can at the bus station. We are expediting the search of the passenger lists, but there are unlicensed cabs outside the station, so there may be gaps in the data." It wasn't exactly good news, but it was better than having no leads at all. Ethan couldn't sit still. Ignoring his friend's pleas, he went directly to the bus station. As soon as he arrived, his assistant handed him the cleaned phone. He entered the password and unlocked it, only to find that all her social media accounts had been wiped clean. Her contacts had also been completely deleted, leaving only one name: Sienna Tours. The moment he saw that name, a cold sweat broke out all over Ethan's body. He took a long time to steel himself before finally mustering the courage to tap on it. The most recent message was a video Sienna had sent that afternoon from inside a car. Seeing the background, Ethan instantly knew what the video contained. He didn't dare to open it. He scrolled up. Interspersed among 3 or 4 videos sent each day were a few text messages. "It must feel awful to play dumb, right? Celeste, how can you still put up with being played like this? Your fiancé has such a strong sex drive, and you're so frigid. If you two actually get married, I give it 3 months before you divorce. Are you sure you want to marry him? If you're really desperate, you could beg me. I'll teach you a few tricks. I guarantee you'll be able to hold on to Ethan's heart, and he won't have to fake amnesia to cheat on you. Why not consider it?" Chapter 12, from December to January, 30 days of these taunts. Ethan was consumed by a towering rage. His mind was fixated on a single thought: find Sienna and make her pay. He sped back home, and as he got out of the car, he saw a pile of luggage at the door. Sienna was directing a few maids to move her things. When she saw him, she immediately swayed her hips and pressed herself against him. "Why are you back? Couldn't bear to let me go? Give me a kiss and I'll stay." Looking at the bewitching face so close to his, Ethan could no longer hold back. He raised his hand and with all his might slapped her across the face. With a loud smack, Sienna was sent sprawling to the ground. Her fair cheek turned a swollen, angry red. She looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief, her voice trembling. "Ethan, why did you hit me?" Ethan was too furious to speak. He threw the phone at her, his eyes glowing with a cold, sinister light. Sienna tearfully picked up the phone. The moment she saw the screen, the hair on her arms stood on end, and a shiver ran down her spine. In an instant, 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind, and she began to explain frantically. "Ethan, I can explain it was Celeste who added me. She knew you were faking your amnesia all along. I only did it because I love you so much. That's why I made a mistake." To Ethan, these words were like pouring gasoline on a fire. He lost all control, yanked her to her feet, and wrapped his hands tightly around her throat. The intense feeling of suffocation made Sienna struggle violently, her sharp nails scratching deep gashes into his hands. But he seemed to feel no pain, his grip only tightening. Her face turned from red to blue, then slowly to a deathly purple. Her eyes, filled with despair, bulged as life drained from them. Just as Sienna thought she was about to be choked to death, Ethan's crew, who had arrived late, saw the scene and turned pale with fright. They rushed forward to save her. Cold air flooded her lungs, and she began to cough violently. Ethan, who had lost all reason, was not done. He thrashed, trying to break free from his friend's grip. His friends, taking several blows, cried out in pain but didn't dare to let go. "Hawthorne, calm down. The most important thing right now is to find Celeste. Right, we have her in our hands. You can deal with her later." Hearing these words, Ethan finally stopped. He took one last look at the woman collapsed on the ground, his voice chillingly cold. "Take her to Dom Russo's place. Keep a good eye on her." Hearing that name, Sienna, who was on the verge of unconsciousness, suddenly became lucid. She crawled to Ethan's side, wrapped her arms around his leg, and begged. "Ethan, no. Hawthorne, I was with you for 2 months. Please spare me this time. If you just let me go, I promise I'll never bother you again. I'm begging you." She sobbed uncontrollably, but Ethan's expression remained impassive. His friends didn't dare to intervene. They dragged her into the car. Sienna couldn't break free and could only watch as the house grew smaller in the rearview mirror. Her desperate wails echoed through the car, and the men's expressions turned cold. If you had just behaved yourself, taken the money, and left, you would have been set for life. But you had to be arrogant and provoke Celeste. You deserve everything you get. Learn your lesson. Behave yourself at Dom's place, and you might just keep your life. Otherwise, with the methods his men use, you're in for a world of pain. Chapter 13. When the plane landed in Melbourne, it was the middle of the night. The border control officer looked through my documents and asked some standard questions. "Miss Iris Lynn, how long do you plan to stay in Australia?" "Hello, I've received an offer from the University of Melbourne. I'll need 2 years to complete my studies." Hearing my fluent English, the officer didn't press further, stamped my passport, and waved me through. Celeste, no, Iris thanked him politely, collected her luggage, and left the airport. She used her new phone to look up the location of her hotel and hailed a cab. The driver was an Australian of Asian descent. Seeing her face, he immediately struck up a conversation in our native language. Hearing it in a foreign land, Iris felt a surge of warmth and familiarity. They chatted idly on the way, and the friendly driver gave her lots of advice about living in Melbourne, all of which she carefully noted down. When they reached the hotel, they exchanged contact information before parting ways. The driver helped her with her luggage to the elevator, and then left. Iris used her key card to open the door. Seeing the clean and tidy room, the tension she had been holding onto finally dissipated. She unpacked, went downstairs for dinner, and then came back to wash up. Lying on the soft, large bed, she quickly fell asleep. She slept soundly through the night. The next day, she woke up groggily at 2 in the afternoon. Seeing the completely unfamiliar room, Iris still felt a bit disoriented. It took her about 5 minutes to finally realize that she had left Northwood City and was now in a brand new country. Melbourne was in the height of summer, and the weather was hot. She picked out a few dresses, went out for lunch, and then took a taxi to the area near the university to check out the apartment she had booked in advance. The landlord arrived on time and handed her the keys. After entering her new home, she looked around, made a list of things she needed to buy, and then hired a cleaner to tidy up. In the evening, she returned to the apartment with her luggage and settled in. Over the next few days, Iris bought many daily necessities, and the once empty rooms slowly filled up. As she organized her things, she kept in touch with her roommate, who was due to arrive in a few days. Gradually, she adapted to local life. Thanks to her excellent cooking skills, she easily integrated into the international student community and became friends with 2 girls who lived next door. They took her shopping, introduced her to nearby restaurants, and showed her the local attractions. After a few days, her superb photography skills were recognized by her new friends, and she even joined a local photography circle. On her 10th day in Melbourne, Iris completed her first photography assignment. She looked at the $300 that had just been deposited into her account with great satisfaction. The next morning, she heard a noise outside her door. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, she walked out of her bedroom to see a young woman in her early 20s with a suitcase, shyly greeting her. "Hello, are you Iris Lynn? I'm Sophie Collins, your roommate." Iris then remembered that her roommate had mentioned she would be arriving in Melbourne today. She quickly went to greet her, helping her with her luggage and showing her around the apartment. In one morning, the two, who had only ever chatted online, quickly became close. That afternoon, they went grocery shopping together. The days passed quickly, and soon it was February, and the university was about to start. The day before classes began, Iris cooked a large meal and invited her new friends over for a gathering. After a month of getting to know each other, everyone had become much closer. After a few glasses of wine, they huddled together, gossiping. Someone started it, and soon everyone was complaining about their ex-boyfriends. Listening to all the bizarre stories, Iris laughed until her stomach hurt. Sophie rubbed her stomach for her and asked with a smile, "Everyone's had a turn. Sis, do you have any secrets to share with us?" Chapter 14. The smile on Iris's face froze. When the other girls had shared, some had talked about their ex-boyfriends cheating. At the time, she had just treated it as a joke, but when the topic turned to her, she found it hard to speak. It had been so long. The name Ethan Hawthorne no longer brought her any sadness. But in front of a group of girls who were 2 or 3 years younger than her, fresh out of college and still innocent about the ways of the world, she didn't know how to begin. After all, a 10-year story, a 7-year relationship with her first love, an engagement that was just a month or 2 away from a wedding, ending in betrayal sounded far too tragic. She didn't want to see pity or sympathy on their faces. Her silence, which lasted only a dozen seconds, was enough for Sophie to sense that something was wrong. She skillfully changed the subject, saving Iris from the awkwardness. After the meal, when everyone had left, Sophie even came to apologize. "Sis, I didn't mean anything by it just now. I'm sorry." Iris knew, of course, that it was an innocent mistake. She smiled and waved her hand. Back in her bedroom, she opened her phone and logged into the new messaging account she had registered a month ago. Her friends had been sending her a constant stream of messages. She replied to each one, thanking them for their concern. Her best friend, Yvonne, replied instantly. "Celeste, you go abroad and it's like you vanished off the face of the earth. You had me worried sick for so long." Just by looking at the screen, Iris could imagine the complaining tone in her voice. She sighed softly, quickly apologized, and assured her she was safe. The two friends caught up, talking about their recent lives, and chatted until Iris drifted off to sleep. When she woke up the next day, she saw over 99 new messages from Yvonne and her eyes widened. As she read through them, she realized most of them were about Ethan Hawthorne. "After you left, Ethan kept coming to me, asking where you were. Don't worry, my lips are sealed. I didn't say a word. Good thing you went to the bus station before the airport. He thought you took an unlicensed cab out of Northwood City and has been looking for you all over the country. I heard Ethan's been drinking himself into a stupor at bars lately. He was hospitalized for a bleeding stomach ulcer a couple of days ago. Serves him right. He even went to your parents, but you cut ties with them long ago. They obviously don't know anything." Seeing this news about Ethan, Iris felt nothing. She pulled back the curtains and looked at the clear river in the distance, her mind filled with 1,000 thoughts. When she was 12, her parents divorced and started new families. Neither wanted her, so they left her with her grandmother, who lived alone. When she was 17, her grandmother passed away, leaving her as the only person on the household register. When she was 18 and agreed to be with Ethan, he had promised he would give her a home. She had believed him and waited 7 years. But all she got was a ridiculous amnesia hoax and the reality of his infidelity. The happiness she once held in her palm had vanished like smoke, and she had been forced to play along with Ethan's charade. Thinking back on those 30 long days, a shiver still ran down Iris's spine. But thankfully, it was all in the past. She pulled open the curtains, and the brilliant sunlight streamed in, chasing away the chill that clung to her. Her 8 o'clock alarm went off. She changed her clothes, grabbed her bag, and went to school with Sophie. The new student orientation was held in the auditorium. Sitting among a group of vibrant young people, listening to the dean's earnest advice, the feeling of unreality that had been haunting her slowly dissipated. The future belonging to Iris Lynn had already begun. Chapter 15. When Ethan Hawthorne woke up, the strong smell of disinfectant filled his nostrils. The side effects of the alcohol were still lingering. His head was throbbing, and his stomach felt heavy, acidic, and faintly painful. He stared blankly at his surroundings as his muddled consciousness slowly returned. His family, who had been watching over him, let out a sigh of relief, but their faces remained grim. "Are you going to keep acting like you're dying over a woman? When will you stop this nonsense?" His crew also gathered around, trying to persuade him with earnest words. "Celeste has been gone for a month with no word. She's obviously doing it on purpose. Hawthorne, just let it go." "Yeah, man. You can have any woman you want. Why do you have to hang yourself on this one tree?" Ethan had heard these words countless times over the past month. He had never listened, and now he just treated them as wind passing by his ears. His bloodshot eyes were vacant and lifeless, his thin lips pressed tightly together. His stubble-covered face was etched with nothing but stubbornness. Seeing his dispirited and self-destructive state, Mr. Hawthorne Sr. couldn't contain his anger any longer. "You are the sole heir of the Hawthorne family, responsible for the future of the Hawthorne Group wallowing in romantic melodrama every day. What kind of example are you setting? I'm telling you for the last time, I have already chosen a new bride for you. You must show up for the wedding in 5 days. If you continue to be so foolish, then you can stop using the Hawthorne name." With that, Mr. Hawthorne Sr. stormed out of the room without a second glance. The room fell silent. Seeing his friend standing there, too scared to even breathe, Ethan pushed himself up, his voice hoarse and weary. "Who did the old man pick?" "Fiona Chamberlain, the third daughter of the Chamberlain family." "The Chamberlains?" Ethan snorted, a cold glint in his eyes. "Go tell her that no one can make decisions about my marriage for me. If she knows what's good for her, she'll call off the engagement herself. Otherwise, don't blame me for not showing the Chamberlain family any respect." Just from Ethan's tone, his friends knew he wouldn't let this go easily. But thinking of his father's earlier fury, they could only bite the bullet and try to reason with him. "Hawthorne, in our circle, marriage is just a business transaction. Your father has given his final ultimatum, and the Chamberlains are not to be trifled with. Maybe you should just let it go?" "Yeah, the invitations have already been sent out. The arrow is already on the bowstring. A new bride is a new bride. Even if Celeste came back, her family background isn't a good match anyway." Ethan never expected that his brothers, who had grown up with him, would say such things. His face turned icy cold, and he shot them a sharp glare. "If you say anything like that again, get out my wife for my entire life will only be Celeste Warner. I don't care if she's a Chamberlain, a Jameson, or a Gardner. I won't marry any of them." Seeing that he wouldn't listen, his friends didn't dare to add fuel to the fire and quietly slipped away. The hospital room was once again empty, with only Ethan left. The sounds of footsteps and voices faded away. He closed his eyes, and countless images flashed through his mind. Every day before he left for work, Celeste would tie his tie and give him a light kiss. When he was sick, she would cry with worry and bring him hot soup. On their anniversaries, she would prepare thoughtful surprises and promise to grow old with him, year after year. All these small moments he had taken for granted were now just distant, unattainable dreams. Looking at the latest message from his assistant, confirming there was still no news of Celeste, Ethan's scarred heart throbbed with pain. He clutched the abandoned phone tightly, as if it were his last glimmer of hope. Chapter 16. Hawthorne, we talked to Fiona Chamberlain. She said the marriage was arranged by her parents and she's following their wishes. She won't call it off. What should we do? Hearing this, Ethan's heart sank, a fierce glint in his eyes. If she doesn't know what's good for her, then she'll just have to wait and see. His tone sent a chill down his friends' spines. "The Chamberlains are a well-known family in Northwood City, Hawthorne. What are you planning to do? Please don't do anything reckless." Ethan glanced at them but didn't answer, changing the subject instead. "Where's Sienna Tours?" His friends had completely forgotten about her and looked at each other blankly. We don't know. We'd have to ask Dom." With that, they were about to make a call. Ethan, simmering with pent-up anger, stopped them, deciding to go see for himself. The whole group followed him to a private club and settled into an exclusive room. As soon as they sat down, Dominic Russo came in with drinks and people, his face a mask of flattery as he looked at Ethan. "Boss Hawthorne, I've brought the person you asked for. Take a look." He pushed the shrinking figure from behind him forward. Sienna was nothing but skin and bones, her exposed arms and legs covered in bruises. She was trembling uncontrollably, not daring to look up at the man before her, her voice filled with a deep-seated fear. "H. Hawthorne, sir." In just a month, the once glamorous beauty had been reduced to this state, shocking everyone in the room. Only Ethan remained expressionless. He stared at the woman before him, a flicker of disgust in his hate-filled eyes. "Don't you just love seducing men, trying to climb the social ladder? Did you manage to snag a rich sugar daddy this past month?" Hearing that familiar voice again, a cold dread rose in Sienna's heart. She thought of the men who had used her to satisfy their strange fetishes over the past month, of the wounds they had inflicted on her body. She shook her head and backed away, her voice sharp with terror. "No, I don't want anything anymore, Hawthorne. Please let me go. I'm begging you." Sienna cried and pleaded, falling to her knees and kowtowing repeatedly. Ethan was unmoved. He watched the red blood seep from her forehead, his hands, clasped on his knees, tightening into fists. "Let you go. If it weren't for you, would Celeste have left? Would I be forced to marry a complete stranger? Everything you're suffering now is just penance for your sins." Days of torture had pushed Sienna to the brink of a mental breakdown. She clutched her chest and screamed out all the resentment she had suppressed. "She left because of you. Not me. Even if I hadn't sent her those videos. She already knew you were cheating. She would have left anyway." The entire room fell silent at her words. Enraged, Ethan grabbed her chin, the fury in his eyes practically bursting forth. "What did you say?" "I said you're reaping what you sowed. You couldn't control your own dick, so why are you blaming me for everything? No wonder Celeste Warner dumped you." Sienna's desperate, taunting words hit Ethan where it hurt most. Losing all control, he raised his hand and struck her again and again. The woman's painful, desperate cries echoed throughout the room. After what felt like an eternity, Ethan finally stopped. He took a few tissues to wipe the blood from his hands, then turned and walked out, leaving only one sentence behind. "For someone who shows no remorse, there's no need to show mercy." Chapter 17. Time flew by, and soon it was the wedding day. The media had received news of Ethan Hawthorne's marriage months ago, but had never known who the bride was. It was only recently revealed that the Hawthorne family was joining with the Chamberlains, which sparked considerable discussion in their social circles. So, by the time the wedding began, a crowd of reporters and paparazzi had gathered outside the hotel. Everyone wanted to get the scoop, and many even disguised themselves to sneak in and live-stream the event. Soon, the hashtag Hawthorne Chamberlain Wedding of the Century was trending, attracting countless onlookers. At noon, the wedding officially began. The bride was on the stage, but the groom was nowhere to be found. At first, the MC managed to keep the atmosphere stable, but after half an hour with no sign of Ethan, he, too, lost control of the situation. The few in the know began to whisper about the bride being switched just a month before the wedding, and the rumor slowly spread. On the stage, the Hawthorne family was as anxious as ants on a hot pan, trying desperately to find him. The Chamberlain family, hearing the gossip, turned pale with anger and finally couldn't hold back their temper. "If you don't want to get married, then let's just call it off." Just as the words were spoken, the doors to the hall swung open. Ethan appeared, dressed in a black suit, looking much more composed than he had in recent days. He had regained his usual nonchalant demeanor, his tone casual. "Who said we're not getting married?" Hearing this, both the Hawthorne and Chamberlain families managed to calm down. The MC also smoothed things over, and the atmosphere in the hall returned to normal. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Ethan walked up to Fiona Chamberlain, who was dressed in a white wedding gown. Seeing the shy smile on her face, a cold glint flashed in his eyes. The ceremony proceeded to the vows. When the MC asked if he would take her as his wife, Ethan took the microphone, looked around the room, and said with disdain, "I do not." The moment he said it, the scene descended into chaos. The live chat was flooded with exclamation points and question marks. The Hawthorne family was furious, but Ethan paid them no mind, turning to face the sea of raised phones that were live streaming. "I, Ethan Hawthorne, will marry no one but Celeste Warner in this lifetime. Celeste, do you hear me? No matter where you're hiding, no matter what you're doing right now, I want you to know that I will find you. Do you remember your promise to be with me forever? I said I would only love you for the rest of my life, and that will never change a minute later. The hashtags "Who is Celeste Warner" and "Celeste Ethan Epic Love Story" also shot to the top of the trending lists. The entire internet was buzzing, wondering who this woman was who had captured the heart of Northwood City's crown prince. Mr. Hawthorne SR. Watching the completely ruined wedding and his in-laws storming out in a rage, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He could no longer contain himself. He strode up to Ethan and slapped him hard across the face twice. You rebellious son," but Ethan seemed to not feel the stinging pain on his face at all. He hissed, wiped the blood from the corner of his lip with his hand, and smiled at his furiously departing family. His eyes were filled with defiance and stubbornness. After the fiasco, his friends surrounded Ethan and helped him into the car, their voices filled with confusion. "Hawthorne, there were plenty of ways to not marry Fiona Chamberlain. Why did you have to announce it at the wedding? You embarrassed the Chamberlain family and infuriated your father." Ethan held the ice pack they handed him to his swollen cheek. His long depressed mood finally lifted. "I had to make a big scene so Celeste would know I'm looking for her. The netizens will help me find her, too. As long as I can get her back, what's offending one Chamberlain family?" Chapter 18. In the end, it was all for Celeste. His friends fell silent, unable to understand what was so special about this woman that he would go to such insane lengths for her. Ethan took out the returned engagement ring, a gentle light in his eyes. "Ever since I can remember, there have always been girls trying to get close to me, showing interest. I never really felt anything for them. I just enjoyed the feeling of being doted on. It wasn't until I met Celeste that I felt my heart race for the first time. You guys don't know, but when she was on stage playing the piano, she seemed to glow. I just wanted to be by her side, to become the most important person in her life. She's someone who lacks a sense of security. It took me 3 years of chasing her to finally win her over. In all the years we were together, she stood by me through thick and thin, always patiently and gently encouraging me. No matter what I was going through, just seeing her made all my troubles and pain disappear. To me, she became an indispensable part of my life. I know I was foolish and hurt her deeply, which is why she left without a word. I know I was wrong. As long as she can forgive me and come back to me, I'll go through hell or high water. I'll even give my life. I'll do anything." As he finished, his voice was filled with endless regret. A few long sighs filled the car. If he had known it would come to this, why did he do it in the first place? Thinking back to the words they had spoken in the private room 2 months ago, they were shocked to realize that their drunken jest had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The gardener kid was still chasing his ex, but at least he could still find her. Celeste, however, had vanished as if she had evaporated into thin air. For over a month, they had used all their connections and resources, searching every conceivable place, but still had no leads. How could a person disappear so completely under such a wide-reaching search? This unsolvable mystery hung heavily on all their minds. A week into her studies, Iris slowly settled into the campus routine. She woke up on time for classes, discussed academics with her professors and classmates, and spent her free time with a few friends, going out and having meals together. If her past life was a sea with dark, surging tides, her current life was a calm, placid lake. She savored this rare peace and tranquility, immersing herself in it, and felt her body and mind relax. Her good friends would occasionally send her news and gossip, but she just treated it as a joke and didn't pay it much mind. February 6th happened to be a Saturday. Iris slept in until 11. When she woke up, she looked at the time on her phone and had a vague feeling she had something important to do that day. But she couldn't remember what it was, so she just had some lunch first. After eating, she and Sophie went for a walk in the park to aid their digestion. When they returned, she saw her phone had been bombarded with messages. Several friends had all sent her the same link. She opened it and saw the names Ethan Hawthorne and Celeste Warner. After watching the entire clip from the wedding, she was at a loss for words and could only reply with a few ellipses. Her best friend, Yvonne, followed up with a long, profanity-laced tirade. "Give me a break that cheating bastard Ethan Hawthorne is being whitewashed as some kind of romantic saint. Who is he trying to fool? If I wasn't afraid of revealing your location, I'd expose that scumbag's true face for everyone to see how two-faced he really is. And all that talk about not marrying anyone but you. It's hilarious did he forget about faking amnesia and kicking you out of the house. And now he says he'll definitely find you. He can get lost being involved with him is just one big disaster. Seeing these rants, Iris finally remembered why she had felt like she had something to do that morning. It was the wedding she had run away from. The thought of it made her laugh out loud. Sophie, who was nearby, saw her and came over to see what was so funny. "Sis, what are you laughing at?" Iris waved her hand. "It's nothing. My friend is just ranting to me about those trending topics on social media." Chapter 19. Oh, the groom who caused a scene at his wedding, right? Sophie had a vague memory of it. She casually mentioned it and opened up her social media app. As she refreshed the page, a new post popped up. The headline read, "Photo of woman from Ethan Hawthorne's passionate declaration found." She opened the picture, and as she was about to show it to Iris, her eyes fell on the simple ID photo and she froze. The girl in the photo had shoulder-length hair, and her features were as delicate as a doll's. Most striking was a small beauty mark at the corner of her eye, which added a touch of cool detachment to her look. Sophie stared at the photo for a long time, then shifted her gaze to Iris's face. Sis looks so much like this girl from the trending topic. Even the beauty mark is in the exact same place. As if sensing her stare, Iris looked up at her. "What's wrong?" After a moment's hesitation, Sophie decided to be direct. "Sis, the media back home found a photo of the girl the groom was declaring his love for. She looks a bit like you. Do you know her?" The expression on Iris's face froze. She now understood why Ethan had made such a huge scene. It was all to find her. A strange feeling rose in her heart. She looked down at the screen Sophie was holding out, her brow furrowing slightly. It was her high school ID photo. She had no idea who could have leaked it. Although it had been 7 or 8 years and she had gained a little weight, anyone could see it was her. Otherwise, Sophie wouldn't have asked. The room was quiet for a moment. After much thought, Iris decided to admit it. "That's me. Ethan Hawthorne is my ex-boyfriend. After we broke up, I changed my name and moved abroad." Hearing such a bombshell piece of gossip, Sophie's eyes widened in shock. Huh. If you broke up, why would he do all this? Isn't this a huge invasion of your life? Iris nodded lightly, a hint of helplessness in her voice. "It will cause some trouble, but I've already left the country, so it should be okay." Sophie's expression grew serious. "It looks like he deliberately made a huge scene to find you and keep harassing you. This news is a pretty big deal. It's possible someone at school might recognize you. What are you going to do?" This was Iris's biggest worry. But seeing Sophie's genuine concern for her, she managed a small smile. "It's okay. He doesn't know I changed my name, so he probably doesn't know I've left the country. If it comes to it, I'll just wear a mask and cover up when I go out for the next few days. I guess that's the only way." Sophie nodded glumly and even pulled out one of her hats. "Take this when you go out. It can help you hide and also protect you from the sun." Iris took it and, trying to lighten the mood, joked with her. "He's just an ex-boyfriend. You don't need to be so nervous." For Ethan Hawthorne to act so crazy at such an important event, he's clearly not a normal person. I've seen so many news stories lately about people getting revenge on their ex-girlfriends or ex-wives out of love turned hate. "Sis, I'm really worried he'll get attached to you and something bad will happen." Hearing this young woman, whom she had only known for a month, show such concern for her, Iris's heart softened, and she took her hand. "We were together for 7 years. Although he did a lot of things to hurt me, I don't think he'd be that extreme. Don't worry." Although she said it with a smile, Sophie remembered her silence when they had talked about ex-boyfriends a few days ago, and could guess that the relationship must have caused her significant pain. She didn't know how to comfort her and could only rack her brains for a few words. "It will pass, sis. You've already escaped the mire. Just look forward." Seeing the determination in her eyes, the anxiety in Iris's heart slowly dissipated. She was right. The 30 most difficult days were over. What else was there to worry about? Chapter 20. The day after the wedding, the Hawthorne family announced that all of Ethan Hawthorne's duties at the Hawthorne Group were temporarily suspended. The Chamberlain family also announced the termination of all 3 ongoing projects with the Hawthornes. The social circles were buzzing with talk of the trouble Ethan had caused this time. Netizens, however, found his passionate, all-for-love gesture deeply moving and showered him with sympathy. Their high school and university classmates also shared stories of their romance online, and soon, a massive fan base for the Celeste and Ethan couple emerged. Amidst the rumors, in addition to discussing their relationship, people also began to dig into their current situation. After learning that the two were currently broken up, everyone started to analyze the reasons for the breakup. Some said it was due to class differences, others family pressure, and some pointed to the 7-year itch. As theories abounded, a long silent party, a friend of Fiona Chamberlain, suddenly leaked some inside information. It was said that the original couple for the wedding was, in fact, Ethan and Celeste. After their engagement, Ethan was in a car accident, lost his memory, and forgot all about Celeste. During those 2 months, he separated from Celeste and fell for another woman. Heartbroken, Celeste left. Then Ethan regained his memory but couldn't find her. Although it was unverified, this rumor spread like wildfire. The epic love story began to branch out into multiple narratives. All the gossip-hungry onlookers were eagerly waiting for one of the protagonists of this 4-way love affair to speak out. But the two families who had fallen out at the wedding were too prominent to pay any attention to the public. So everyone pinned their hopes on the missing Celeste and the other woman. Her friends often forwarded these heated discussions to Iris. She just read them like a joke and rarely responded. Yvonne asked her several times why she remained silent when she was the one who had been hurt. Iris thought about it for a long time before she finally shared the words she had kept hidden in her heart. Before I knew the truth, when Ethan was faking his amnesia and pushing me away again and again, I did waver. I thought about giving up on the relationship. But every time I wanted to give up, I would remember the time he fought off those thugs with knives for me. That was the moment he truly moved me, the moment I let down my guard and agreed to be with him. He was devoted to me all those years, and the car accident and amnesia were just an accident. If I were to leave because of these random events, wouldn't that be unfair to Ethan? He pursued me for 3 years, but I couldn't even last a month. It seemed so heartless. With that thought, I held on. But just as I was becoming more and more determined to wait for him to recover his memory, I found out it was all a lie. I was in pain for a long time, unable to understand how all his sincerity and love, which had been so obvious and which I could feel so clearly, could just disappear. Was everything he had done for me in the past just an act? If so, why would he keep it up for 7 years? I just couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until the day I left Northwood City, as I was clearing out my phone, that I saw a quote I had saved a long time ago. Never doubt sincerity, but sincerity itself is ever-changing. In that moment, I finally found peace. It was like my parents. When they got married, they both thought they would be together for life, but after just a few years, they grew apart. It was the same with Ethan. When he loved me, he could keep his distance from other women just to give me a sense of security. But when the love was gone, it was gone. Even though he set a 2-month limit for his indulgence and promised he would come back to me, it couldn't hide the fact that his heart was already broken. Everything in the world has an expiration date, and love is no exception. I'm willing to accept this ending, to let him go, and to let myself go. As for the painful memories, let them fade away along with those 7 years. Chapter 21, it was the first time in a month that Yvonne had heard Iris speak voluntarily about the matter. She had thought Iris was silent because she couldn't let go. But after reading that long message, Yvonne finally understood that she had truly moved on. The worry that had been weighing on her heart for so long finally settled. Celeste, you're right. He's just a rotten first love. It's over. There's no need to dwell on it. Instead of wasting time on him, you're better off getting more sleep or going out more. Seeing that her friend understood her, Iris felt a sense of relief. She was about to share some photos of the Western food she had eaten over the past few days when another message from Yvonne came through. Actually, I have one more question for you, Celeste. You can answer if you want, but you don't have to if you don't. After ending this relationship, are you completely disillusioned with love? Looking at the words on the screen, Iris's eyes flickered. She looked up at the couples holding hands outside the window. Teenage boys and girls, still with a touch of youthful innocence, strolled under the sun, stepping on each other's shadows. A couple in their early 30s pushed a stroller, their tired faces smiling. An elderly couple with white hair supported each other as they walked leisurely. Everywhere she looked, countless people were still exchanging their hearts, believing in forever. Was it love that had failed her? No, it was just one person, so why should she blame love for one person's mistake? Of course not. What I lost was Ethan's love, not the love of the entire world. I have you, I have Sophie, I have my roommate, and I have my grandmother watching over me from heaven. You all still love me. In the future, I'll meet many people and experience many unpredictable things. Why should I give up on a whole forest for just one tree? This was Iris's answer to Yvonne. It was also the answer she gave herself after she had let go. In the 10 years, she was entangled with Ethan. The anger and pain that had festered in her heart for years due to her dysfunctional family had been dispelled by his blatant affection. She had changed from a stubborn and solitary person and learned how to love someone. Compared to the ending of betrayal and hurt, wasn't this rebuilt, strong, and mature self more worth celebrating? After thinking it through completely, Iris felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She got up from the coffee shop, went to the supermarket, and bought a lot of ingredients. After an hour of busy work in the kitchen, 3 dishes were on the table, just as Sophie got home. Smelling the fragrant braised pork ribs, Sophie skipped into the kitchen, washed her hands, and helped set the table. "Sis, it's such a blessing to come home to your cooking. Having you here to eat with me makes me very happy, too." After they both sat down, Iris put a lot of meat in Sophie's bowl, her eyes curving into crescents as she smiled. Sophie chewed on a bone while chatting about the interesting things that happened that day, and the atmosphere at the dinner table was cheerful and harmonious. After dinner, Sophie volunteered to do the dishes, and Iris was happy to relax, lying on the sofa with a face mask on. After cleaning up the kitchen, Sophie came out with a plate of fruit, her voice full of excitement. "Sis, my parents are coming to see me in a couple of days. When are they coming? I can go with you to the airport to pick them up. Around the 8th, they want to celebrate the new year here. Since you're not going back to your country anyway, why don't you join us? The more, the merrier." Iris initially felt it would be an intrusion, but seeing the expectant look on Sophie's face, she hesitated. Seeing her soften, Sophie grabbed her hand and pleaded, even making a detailed travel plan. "Please, sis, come with us. Otherwise, my parents will be stuck together all day, and I'll be all alone. The 4 of us can split into 2 groups. First, we'll go to Hosier Lane, then the Yarra River." Chapter 22. On the 50th day of Celeste's disappearance, Ethan Hawthorne still had no leads on her whereabouts. The internet was abuzz with gossip about them, but it all revolved around their past entanglement. No one had managed to uncover Celeste's location. Ethan's firm resolve to find her was slowly being worn away by the relentless passage of time. He found it increasingly difficult to return to the empty villa, no longer wanted to open the messages from his assistant, and would now fly into a rage at the mere mention of Celeste's name. The Hawthorne family had cut off all his credit cards, so he could no longer use lavish spending to fill the void of his panic. His friends had also lost hope and urged him to let go of Celeste and make peace with his family. Ethan, at 24, had never experienced such a blow. He drank heavily every day. When he was drunk, he would smash things, cry his heart out calling Celeste's name, and repent endlessly. But the alcohol could only numb his senses temporarily. When he woke up, he was once again faced with the bleak, grim reality. Day after day of torment wore him down, and he was a shadow of his former confident self. On New Year's Eve, Ethan was drinking alone at a bar. He ignored several calls from his mother and finally just turned off his phone. Around midnight, he returned to the villa, drunk and dazed, and thought of Celeste again. In previous years, after having a reunion dinner at home, he would go to the villa to be with her. She would have cut paper decorations for the windows, cooked a delicious meal, and they would welcome the new year together. They would snuggle on the sofa, watch the fireworks light up the sky, and wish to be together year after year. Now, the fireworks were exploding again, but all he had for company was a floor littered with empty wine bottles. Through the window, Ethan watched the lively scene outside, and a boundless loneliness washed over him. When the clock struck midnight, he turned on his phone and sent a New Year's greeting to Celeste. Ding! The phone he had placed on the table, Celeste's phone, chimed. He picked it up, tapped on the red notification dot, and sent a Happy New Year message back to himself. Seeing the greeting from that familiar profile picture, the pain in Ethan's heart eased slightly. Now, this was all he had left, a self-directed play of greetings to comfort himself. As he was mocking himself, one of his friends suddenly called. He answered, ready to chew him out, but instead heard news that he couldn't accept. "Hawthorne, something's happened. Dom just messaged me. Your parents went to his place and took Sienna tours away." The news sobered Ethan up instantly. He ran downstairs and hailed a cab. It was already 1 in the morning when he arrived at the family home, but the old house was brightly lit. As he pushed open the door, he saw his father sitting in the main seat, his face cold and clearly angry. "So you decided to come back?" Ethan was in no mood for these pointless arguments. His eyes scanned the room. "Where is Sienna Tours?" At the mention of her name, his father's expression darkened even further. His mother, fearing another fight between father and son, quickly pulled him upstairs. "She's in the hospital. The doctor said she's 3 months pregnant. We've had it checked. The child is yours." The blood rushed to Ethan's head. He grabbed the railing for support and instinctively denied it. "Impossible, I used protection. She could never be pregnant, it must be some other bastard's child." Chapter 23, his adamant denial made even his mother waver. She spoke hesitantly. She said she tampered with the condoms. She's certain the child is yours and even swore she's willing to have a paternity test done after the baby is born. Hearing this, Ethan completely fell apart. He knew that, given Sienna's personality, she would never have hidden a pregnancy unless she was absolutely certain. She had waited for the right opportunity to contact his parents. She had been tortured at Dom Russo's place for nearly 2 months. This was her only way out. The issue of the child sparked another fierce argument between Ethan and his parents. He insisted the child wasn't his and demanded it be aborted. But Mr. Hawthorne SR, who had been thoroughly disappointed by the series of events, was adamant about keeping the child and waiting for a paternity test after the birth. With the support of the head of the Hawthorne family, Sienna, who had endured 2 months of inhumane torment, was finally free. Although she couldn't return to the Hawthorne family, she was at least admitted to a presidential suite in the hospital, with all her needs taken care of. Ethan couldn't accept this outcome, but he couldn't defy his parents either, so he could only vent his frustration on his friends. In his darkest hour, someone suddenly brought news of Celeste. A friend from their circle who was studying in Melbourne had mentioned at a gathering that he had seen someone at his university who looked a lot like Celeste. This news re-energized Ethan completely. He immediately booked a flight to Melbourne and was about to leave, but his friends held him back, pouring cold water on his excitement. "Hawthorne, now that we've found her, she's not going anywhere. The urgent issue right now is the baby. If you don't resolve this, even if Celeste forgives you, she'll never come back to you once she finds out about the child." The words were a wake-up call. The relief Ethan had just felt was replaced by a new wave of anxiety. He suppressed his elation and forced himself to calm down. His friends offered a variety of suggestions. He listened to them all, but none were viable. In the end, he decided to handle it himself. Ethan went directly to the hospital. The security guards at the entrance, thinking he was there to cause trouble, blocked his way. He called his mother, and after promising he would wait a few months for the paternity test, she immediately let him in. Bang! The closed door was pushed open. Sienna looked up at the sound, and when she saw who it was, the smile on her face was instantly replaced by terror. She stumbled to her feet and tried to hide behind the furniture, her voice trembling. What are you doing here? The baby is really yours." Looking at her sickly, gaunt face, Ethan felt no interest whatsoever. He slowly walked towards her, backing her into a corner. With every step he took, the joy in his heart grew stronger. It was as if he wasn't approaching Sienna, but Celeste, who was thousands of miles away. "The child is mine, not mine. It doesn't matter now, because it's about to say goodbye to this world. Sienna Tours, you schemed and plotted for so long, all just to climb the ladder, didn't you? But I can tell you clearly today, unless I die, you will never have that chance in this lifetime." Watching him advance, Sienna felt as if her nightmare was beginning all over again. She cried and fumbled for her phone, trying to call the Hawthorne family. But before she could press the call button, Ethan snatched the phone and threw it out the window. A sharp, piercing scream echoed through the room. Remembering the guards outside, Ethan quickly covered her mouth, dragged her into the inner room, and slammed the door shut. Sienna had no strength to resist. She slammed against the wall, a sharp pain radiating through her bones. She curled into a ball, desperately trying to protect her stomach to save this child. But Ethan showed no mercy. Punch after punch landed on her lower abdomen. A warm, dark wetness and a bone-deep pain washed over her simultaneously. Seeing the pool of dark red blood beneath her, Sienna broke down completely. The humiliation she had suffered in the dark room, the new wounds on her unhealed body, the glimmer of hope she had fought so hard for, all the pain she had endured over the past 2 months, combined with the despair of her hope being shattered, became the final straw that broke Sienna. She looked up at the man before her, the hatred in her eyes so raw it was as if they would burst from their sockets. This naked hatred, in Ethan's blood-crazed eyes, was like a stimulant. A thrill shot up his spine. He looked at his blood-stained hands, a wild, unrestrained smile spreading across his face. "You hate me? What right do you have to hate me? You brought all of this on yourself." These words plunged Sienna into an endless abyss. She was consumed by the flames of hatred, her muddled mind filled with a single thought. Let's Go to Hell Together, Chapter 24. With his last concern eliminated, the satisfied Ethan paid Sienna no mind. He rose to his feet and, with an air of indifference, pulled a tissue from the box on the table, slowly and methodically wiping his hands. He was a picture of calm, as if the chaotic scene on the floor had nothing to do with him. Once his hands were clean, Ethan lifted his wrist to check the time. 11 o'clock in the morning. He had exactly 3 hours until his 2 o'clock flight. There was no reason to linger. He turned to leave. He had just taken a single step when a tearing, agonizing pain shot through his calf. He collapsed to his knees, his face contorted in a grimace. He twisted his head to see a completely crazed Sienna. She pulled the fruit knife from his body, and a spray of blood splattered across her gaunt face, staining it crimson. The thick, metallic smell of blood in the air stimulated her nerves. Her eyes could only see the man who had utterly destroyed her life. This was her last and only chance for revenge. Sienna was terrifyingly lucid. She raised the knife high and, without a second thought, plunged it into Ethan's body again and again. Desperate, agonizing screams echoed through the room. The sharp shrieks slowly faded to hoarse whimpers, and finally, only the sound of labored gasps from his throat remained. Ethan's pupils gradually dilated, and his clenched fists unconsciously relaxed. Sienna had also exhausted all her strength. The weapon in her hand fell to the floor with a clatter. The blood flowing from their bodies mingled, seeping across the smooth floor like a dark red river. The second hand on the clock on the wall continued to tick. Ethan's consciousness slowly faded, and the unbearable pain gradually subsided. He felt as if he were falling into a cloud, his body light and floating. All the sounds around him ceased, leaving only a faint, humming static. His eyelids grew heavy, and the scene before him blurred and fragmented, becoming a flickering montage of black and white. In the silence, his past life replayed in his mind like a revolving lantern. From a carefree childhood to the first stirrings of love in his youth, to the unremarkable present moment. Parents, friends, classmates, teachers, strangers, they all appeared in succession. In this black and white reel, only one person was in color. 16-year-old Celeste, standing under the lights in a long white dress, quietly playing the piano. 18-year-old Celeste, standing by his hospital bed, crying her heart out, her hand tightly gripping his. 23-year-old Celeste, accepting the bouquet of vibrant red roses with tears in her eyes, agreeing to become his wife. 24-year-old Celeste, holding an umbrella, walking into a torrential downpour, her expression no longer visible. Watching that gradually blurring figure, the tightly wound string inside Ethan's body snapped. He felt something being pulled from his body. He was so unwilling to let it go, but he was powerless to stop its departure. Was it love? Or hope, or was it life itself? Ethan didn't know. To be precise, he had completely lost the ability to think. An endless cold enveloped him. He could feel the blood under his skin growing cold, freezing. Only the single tear that rolled from the corner of his eye was still warm. Chapter 25, celebrating the new year in the height of summer, was a novel experience for both Iris and Sophie. Sophie's parents had brought many things from their home country, and the two young women decorated the living room with couplets and paper-cut window decorations. Looking at the festive atmosphere in the house, Iris finally felt the spirit of the new year again after many years. Ever since her grandmother had passed away, she had always spent New Year's Eve alone. Although Ethan would come to keep her company, it was usually late in the evening. Before 8 o'clock, she was always by herself. All she could feel was a profound loneliness, made all the more intense by the lively celebrations outside. She had thought that once they were married in the new year, things would change. She never expected that she wouldn't get married, but she would have someone to celebrate the new year with. Sophie's mother, busy in the kitchen, brought out a plate of freshly fried meatballs and crispy pork, smiling as she urged her to try them, her voice full of warmth and affection. "Iris, this is Sophie's favorite dish. Try some and see what you think of my cooking." Iris took a piece to try, but before she could comment, Sophie, who was still putting up window decorations, ran over with her mouth open, waiting to be fed. Iris picked up a small piece of crispy pork and was about to blow on it to cool it down, but Sophie, impatient, took a bite. Watching her dance around from the heat, Iris went to get her a glass of water. When she returned, Sophie's mother, laughing heartily, put an arm around her shoulder. "Don't spoil her. All she ever thinks about is food. I don't know what she's always in such a hurry for." Sophie, still panting, quickly took a sip of water and then looked over with a mock offended expression. "What do you mean, spoil her? What's wrong with sis liking me? We're like real sisters, HMPH. Her childish behavior was genuinely amusing to Iris. She suppressed a smile and nodded in agreement. With someone on her side, Sophie became even more triumphant, grabbing Iris's hand and pleading. "Sis, if you don't mind, why don't you officially adopt me as your little sister? Look, I can do the dishes, I can make you laugh, and I can go shopping with you. We're a perfect match." The playful, winking expression on Sophie's face finally made Iris burst out laughing. Sophie's mother tapped her daughter on the forehead and tutted. "Are you really trying to be her sister, or are you just trying to get free meals from Iris?" "What free meals? I'm being completely sincere, with no ulterior motives, Mom. Don't slander me." After her righteous declaration, Sophie hugged Iris's arm and begged again. "Please say yes, sis, then I can just call you sis from now on." It's so much easier, it wasn't a big deal, and Iris had a soft spot for her, so of course she agreed. Seeing her nod, Sophie was so overjoyed she didn't know what to do with herself, jumping and twirling around. Sophie's father, carrying a large platter of fish, carefully protected the dish while giving his full approval. "This is wonderful, you two girls are close in age and get along so well. It's a relief for us parents to know you can look out for each other here. Sophie is the younger one, so Iris will have to trouble you to look after her." Sophie's mother also looked at the two of them with a gratified expression, her happiness unconcealed. "The first time I saw Iris, I had this idea, but I was too shy to say anything. Now that Iris has agreed, I won't hold back anymore. Here, this is a New Year's gift for you two sisters. Please take it." As she spoke, Sophie's mother took 2 gift boxes from her pocket. When she opened them and saw 2 identical gold bracelets, Iris was stunned. She didn't dare to accept such a valuable gift, but Sophie and her mother insisted, putting it on her wrist and reassuring her. "It's just a small gift to bring some good luck, Iris. Don't feel pressured." "That's right, we're family now. Isn't it normal for sisters to wear matching bracelets? Please accept it, Iris. If you really feel bad about it, then you can help us keep this girl in line." After being persuaded by the family of 3, Iris finally accepted the gift. In return, she also gave one of the pair of jade bracelets her grandmother had left her to Sophie. The gold and jade clinked together on their wrists. The 2 sisters smiled, raised their glasses, and celebrated with the 2 elders. Another new year had arrived. Chapter 26. For the next 2 New Years, Iris also spent them in Australia. Each year, Sophie's parents would come over to celebrate with them. As they spent more time together, their bond grew stronger. The year they graduated, Sophie's family decided to settle in Melbourne, and Sophie asked Iris if she had any plans to stay. Iris had been considering this question for a long time. Her close friends back in her home country were all married, and she had long since cut ties with her parents. She had no property or assets there either. From both a personal and professional standpoint, she was more inclined to stay. So, while she looked for a job, she also began preparing her immigration documents. During this time, Sophie's family helped her a great deal, allowing her to overcome many challenges. While she was studying, she had already saved up a considerable amount of money through her impressive skills. So after graduation, she opened a small photography studio. Over the next 2 years, the studio continued to expand and slowly became well established. After 4 years, Iris met the requirements for immigration and successfully applied for permanent residency. When she returned to her home country to complete the paperwork, she met up with friends she hadn't seen in a long time. After years apart, time had changed everyone. They were no longer the young people they once were. But when they gathered together, they could still find that old feeling of being able to talk about anything. The topic everyone was most curious about was, of course, her love life. Faced with their eager questions, Iris was open and candid. "I dated 2 people in the past couple of years, but we eventually broke up for various reasons. My current boyfriend and I got together last August. He's 2 years younger than me, but he's very mature." As she described her relationship, she shared photos and videos with everyone. Seeing the happy and well-matched couple on the screen, everyone wore expressions of relief and happiness. After chatting for a while longer, someone suddenly brought up Ethan Hawthorne. "Hey, have you guys heard? I think Ethan Hawthorne passed away." Hearing this, Iris's heart skipped a beat. Over the past few years, she had been so busy with her studies and work that she rarely paid attention to news from back home. When she occasionally talked about the past with Sophie, she always felt that that period of her life was shrouded in a fog, hard to see clearly. And the name Ethan Hawthorne felt like a faded old photograph, tinged with a sense of yellowed antiquity. She had assumed he would slowly let go of their past, take over the family business, and start a new life on the other side of the ocean. She never imagined he had already passed away. The atmosphere in the room grew quiet for a moment as everyone carefully observed Iris's reaction. Seeing only shock on her face, they all breathed a sigh of relief and continued the conversation. "I heard about that too, Celeste. I was going to tell you, but then I thought you had already moved on, so I didn't want to bring up such a sad topic." "What sad topic?" "I heard he tormented that woman, the one with the last name Tors, so badly that she retaliated and stabbed him to death. I guess you could say he reaped what he sowed." After so long, Iris couldn't even remember that woman's full name. Her only memory of her was the car crash that had almost ruined her life. So, hearing that the 2 people who had completely changed the course of her life had met such an end, she felt a pang of melancholy. But even that feeling of distraction was fleeting. After all, those were people and events from a long, long time ago, like a gust of wind blowing through a hall. Once it passes, it's gone.